There we go.
Screws, but that's alright, though I'ma do me, you do you. So how you judging me? I'm just trying to survive. And if the time comes, I ain't trying to die. I'm just trying to die. Love, fucking it down to me and give a little hug. Hook the car up, hit the bar up, clean the scars up. Hey, yo, stars up. Hey, this is the life of an outlaw. We ain't promised tomorrow, I'm living now, dog. I'm walking through life, but yo, my feet hurt. All my blessings are fair. Man, I rest when I'm dead. Look into my eyes and see the real world. Take a walk with me, have a talk with me. When we end up, God only knows. Strap you so tight, you might be alright. On this lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome, pissed off who wants some. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at your boy. You try to go, God, fall back. I go hard on this lonely road, trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome, pissed off who wants some. I see them long, hard times to come. Trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off for want some. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at your boy. You try to go, God, fall back. I go hard on this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off for want some. I see them long, hard times to come. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off for want some. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at your boy. You try to go, God, fall back. I go hard on this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off for want some. I see them long, hard times to come.
The grip you need, the stopping power you trust, and the confidence to keep you moving. Everything you need to stay road ready this spring. At Tire Warehouse, get trusted service, great offers, and easy payment options, and stay road ready.
Ain't no stopping, I'm coming home.
Squeeze on
It's the SLEUTH, and the way you get done is excruciating. You can't even imagine the brand of self-loathing you feel when you step to the man who's been chosen. I'm ice cold, pitch black and old golden. Trying to get your foot in the dough, I'm 10 toes in. Fresh as a pimp who gets chosen. Every last one of you cents gets stolen. You don't wanna let the dough in, cause when I get up in the dough, then you have to let my flow in. And my flow is oh so golden. Gone when I'm on this microphone, I'm
isn't it funny that back when we were doing that, we were criminals talking to terrorists? When they do it, they're helping One Watch I Love Lucy.
Players are the same, they just shuffle up the names. They be having different faces, but the joke is still wild. Already playing, might as well know how. Bang out a beat for my people in the crowd. M.A. in this piece, what you wanna do now? Let's get it like this.
Actually, I always watch them. There's a few. There's a couple episodes on the website.
Like try, leave it fried when the dough bless. Call a medic cause it's so sick it might catch it. Tighter flows, put the dough in a higher bracket. Spit fire like a barrel of a ratchet. Do it all in one pass, I ain't gotta patch it. When I spit, take a drink from the fire hose. Don't spill a drop cause I know that you're tired of those jaws that you hear near 35 minutes. No mic skills, swear that they nice with some kind of flow. Lord bless me with a brain so I use it. Work hard, do my damn thing in this music. Devil try to make me go insane, so I prove them wrong. That's why I had to do this song like this, like this. We all up in the house like this. We in a place like that, like that. We all up in a place like that. We in a house like this, like this. We all up in the house like this. We in a place like that, like that. We all up in a place like that. We in a house like this. Too many demons in this world trying to tempt us. 2 or 3 every 4 years trying to pimp us. 5 fingers on the hand, curl for the fist up. Get the other hand exposed, go and throw the 6th up. 7 is a number, both prime and divine. 8 sides on the sign and you stop on the line. Long as I can see Pluto, then we still have 9. I bet your top 10 dead or alive ain't like mine. See the flow so crispy, you don't wanna miss me. When I hit this beat and throw it to you like a frisbee. Frolic with the flow, buck wild, Bill Bixby. Want it with the dough, know the bow is busy. Like this, like this. We all up in the house like this. We in a place like that, like that. We all up in a place like that. We in a house like this, like this. We all up in the house like this. We in a place like that, like that. We all up in a place like that. We in a house like this, like this. We all up in a house like this. We in a place like that, like that. We all up in a place like that. We in a house like this, like this. We all up in a house like this. We in a place like that, like that. We all up in a place like that. We in a house like this. Down in the plains, in the heat of the desert, in the delta rains, up dusty trails down on the street. Ain't no stopping, I'm coming home.
Chevy Silverado HD with available Duramax diesel and power that doesn't quit and strength that doesn't either. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Like your period, you can't fast forward this ad, but you can speed up absorption. Now 3 times faster with Always Ultra Thin.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
Yeah, the future is a bumpy ride. I wanna ride with you, riding monsters till we die. I wanna ride just as long as you're by my side. I wanna ride with you. I got a flint flag and I'm gonna let it fly.
Come on.
I wanna ride with you.
Come on.
I wanna ride with you.
Come on, let's ride. I know I'm ready for the leap. Started out with a little, barely had a heat, but what we had kept a belly full of eats. Just a short slip away from being belly on the streets. Hard scramble over grits, jelly on the wheat. Unabashed with a drive to keep our family on our feet. Hard work raising youngins in the belly of the beast. To be sitting around the table getting ready for the feast. It wasn't easy and it wasn't alone, but we still got a long road to hoe on the road. So what gets sown gets the water to grow, and the sunlight to get the harvest ready to show. So it goes, that though whatever served on the menu could react with situations that you've been through. We can still get through like we got through. We are not through, just know we got you.
I wanna ride with you, riding monsters till we die. I wanna ride just as long as you're by my side. I wanna ride with you. I got a flint flag and I'm gonna let it fly.
Come on.
I wanna ride with you.
Let's ride. here to slay monsters like Geralt the Witcher. And I'm here with ya, that's all she wrote. Tight like a fat couple caught up in coach for my bros and my blows. Mamacitas y amigas, yes, all of my folks. If the whole world starts to go up in smoke, we're riding together and we're going for broke. But I'm trying to make sure that don't happen. Climb on this boat with me, ride with your captain. Maintain yourself in an orderly fashion. Calm and collected, but I still need your passion. This is a call to action, action exact facts. Building more bridges than you will with a hashtag. Big dog barking, say the fat cats running. Revolution coming now, ain't that something? I wanna ride with you, fighting monsters till we die. I wanna ride just as long as you're by my side. I wanna ride with you, gotta let me fly. I wanna let it fly. I wanna ride with you. I wanna ride with you.
Knots like horse beams has been foreseen. That all rival signals the end for your team. Like a game 7 loss, set it off, whatever the cost. The Randy dominates the field better than Moss. Instead of the flaws, I'm about to blow. Insurmountable skills, still I count the dough. I make it bounce and roll, rock and skate. While your brain tries to contemplate the theories that I postulate. Cats overcompensate for a lack of skills. With tails and stacks and kills and backs and bills. Unarmed men in the battle of wits and wills. But I can drown the world with the way my wisdom spills. Me and Mike score together like kitchen grills. And we serve whack MCs just for kicks and thrills. Come on.
Red sky morning, I know it's real.
It's real. It's so real.
Red sky morning, go for my steel. If I ain't gonna come, I got a black cap on. When I'm gonna come, I wanna stand alone.
The nebula brought a predator better than any regular. Setting the perfect time to get deep in your mind. Can you visualize? Melodic winds and chains. Eyes watching the moon's path, moving the tides. Influence the destinations, the comets, the constellations, the galaxies circulating, harmonic and oscillation, hypnotic and penetrating. Releasing your mind to the vacuum of space. Could you reach it in time and go faster? Blast your disasters and master proportions for the back.
Oh. I spit a lemon seed. I'd already eaten 2. I don't want to overdose on the lemon seeds, so I spit one over there. Maybe the squirrels will eat it. And maybe they too will realize the benefits of lemon seeds. Are they that smart? There's another one. Anyways. So we're going to finish the first section of early Writers of Modern America, Book 18, Columbia University series. Well, yeah, again, this is just that older device, so I don't want it overheating too much. Yeah, we're doing The German Mind. We read the first section of that one. And now we're doing Writers of Modern America. And then we're also going to do a third one, the early days of America to the Republic. Alright, page 10, I think we finished off last time. I'm just going to start at the beginning of page 10. It had been some hours since I had used the oars, but whether we had drifted or remained where we were when I stopped rowing, of course I could not know, but this mattered very little. Our boat was slowly sinking beneath us, and it could make no difference whether we went down in one spot or another. I sat and racked my brain to think what could be done in this fearful emergency. To bail any longer was useless labor, and what else was there that we could do? "When will it be time," asked Miss Lex, "for us to put on the life preservers? When the water gets nearly to the seats?" Question mark. I answered that we should not wait any longer than that, but in my own mind I could not see any advantage in putting them on at all. Why should we wish to lengthen our lives by a few hours of helpless floating upon the ocean? "Very good," said Miss Lex. "I'll keep watch on the water. One of them cans was filled with lobster, which would be more likely to disagree with us, and I've thrown it out. But the other had broken beans in it, and the best thing we can do is to eat some of these right away." What's that? Might attract sharks? Yeah, maybe. They are mighty nourishing, and will keep up strength as well as anything. And then, as he said, there's a keg of water in the boat. We can all take a drink of that, and it'll make us feel like new creatures. You'll have to take the beans in your hands, for we've got no spoons or forks. Miss Lex and Miss Alsheen were curled up out of reach of the water, the first of the stern and the other the aft thwart. The day was now beginning to break, and we could see about us very distinctly. Before reaching out her hands to receive her beans, Miss Alsheen washed them in the water in the boat, remarking at the same time that she might as well make use of it since it was there. Having then wiped her hands on some part of her apparel, there were filled beans from the newspaper held by Miss Lex, and these were passed over to me. I was very hungry, and when I finished my beans, I agreed with my companions that although they would have been a great deal better if heated up with some butter, pepper, and salt, they were very comforting as they were. One of the empty cans was now passed to me, and after having been asked by Miss Lex to rinse it out very carefully, we all satisfied our thirst from the water in the keg. "Cold baked beans and lukewarm water isn't exactly company victuals," said Miss Alsheen, "but there's many a poor wretch which would be glad to get 'em." I could not imagine any poor wretch who'd be glad of the food together with the attending circumstances, but I did not say so. "The water is just one finger from the bottom of the seat," said Miss Lex, who had been stooping over to measure, "and it's time to put on the life preservers." "Very good," said Miss Alsheen. "Hand me mine." Each of us now buckled on a life preserver. As I did so, I stood up upon a thwart and looked about me. It was quite light now, and I could see for a long distance over the surface of the ocean, which was greatly rolling in wide, smooth swells. As we rose upon the summit of one of these, I saw a dark spot upon the water, just on the edge of our near horizon. "Is that the steamer?" I thought. "And has she not yet sunk?" At this there came to me a glimmering of courageous hope. If the steamer had remained afloat so long, it was probable that on account of watertight compartment, or for some other reason, her sinking had reached its limits, and that if we could get back to her, we might be saved. But alas, here we were to get back to her. But alas, how were we to get back to her? This boat would sink long before I could row that distance. However, I soon proclaimed the news to my companions, whereupon Miss Lex Alsheen prepared to stand upon a thwart and see for herself. But Miss Lex restrained her. "Don't make things worse, Barbary Alsheen," she said, "by tumbling overboard. If we've got to go into the water, let us do it decently. Let us do it decently and in order. If that's the ship, Miss Craig, don't you suppose we can float ourselves to it in some way?" I replied that by the help of a life preserver, a person who could swim might reach the ship. "But neither of us can swim," said Miss Lex, "for we've lived where the water was never more than a foot deep, except in a time of freshets, when there's no swimming for man or beast. But if you swim, perhaps we can follow after a fashion. At any rate, we must do the best we can, and that's all there is to be done." "The water now," remarked Miss Alsheen, "is so near the bottom of my seat that I've got to stand up. Tumble overboard or no." "All right," remarked Miss Lex, "we better all stand up and let the boat sink under us. That will save our jumping overboard or rolling out any which way which might be awkward." "Goodness gracious me!" exclaimed Miss Alsheen. "You set the oysters creeping over me again. First you talk of the ship sinking under us, and now it's the boat going to the bottom under our feet. Before any sinking's to be done, I'd rather get out." "Now, Barbary Alsheen," said Miss Lex, "stand up straight and don't talk so much. It'll be a great deal better to let down gradual than to flop into the water all of a bunch." "Very well," said Miss Alsheen. "It may be best to get used to it by degrees, but I must say I wish I was home. As for me, I would have much preferred to jump overboard at once instead of waiting in this cold-blooded manner. But as my companions had so far preserved their presence of mind, I did not wish to do anything which might throw them into a panic. I believe there would be no danger from the suction caused by the sinking of a small boat like this, and if we took care not to entangle ourselves with it in any way, we might as well follow Miss Lex's advice. Has not. So we all stood up, Miss Lex in the stern, I in the bow, and Miss Alsheen at a thwart between us. The last did not appear to have quite room enough for a steady footing, but as she remarked, it did not matter very much, as the footing, broad or narrow, would be there not very long. I am used to swimming and have never hesitated to take a plunge into the river or ocean, but I must admit that it was very trying to my nerves to stand up this way and wait for a boat to sink beneath me. How the two women were affected I do not know. They said nothing, but their faces indicated that something disagreeable was about to happen, and that the less that was said about it, the better. The boat had now sunk so much that the water was around Miss Alsheen's feet. Her standing place being rather lower than ours, I made myself certain that there were no ropes nor any other means of entanglement near my companions or myself, and then I waited. There seemed to be a good deal of buoyancy in the bow and stern of the boat, and it was frightfully long time in sinking. The suspense became so utterly unendurable that I was tempted to put one foot on the edge of the boat, and by tipping it, put an end to this nerve-rack, but I refrained, for I probably should throw the women off their balance, when they might fall against some part of the boat and do themselves a hurt. I had just relinquished this intention when two little waves seemed to rise in on each side of Miss Alsheen, and gently flowing over the side of the boat, they flooded her feet with water. "Hold your breaths," I shouted. and now I experience a sensation which must have been very like that which comes to a condemned criminal at the first indication of pulling on the drop. Then there was a horrible sinking, a gurgle, and a swash of the ocean, over which I had been gazing, appeared to rise up and envelop me. In a moment, however, my head was out of water, and looking hastily about me, I saw close by the heads and shoulders of Miss Lex and Miss Alsheen. The latter was vigorously winking her eyes and blowing from her mouth some sea-water that had got into it, but as soon as her eyes fell upon me, she exclaimed, "That was ever so much more sudden than I thought it was going to be. Are you both all right?" "I suppose I am," said Miss Alsheen, "but I never thought that a person with a life preserver on would go clean under the water. But since you've come up again, you ought to be satisfied," said Miss Lex. "And now," she added, turning her face toward me, "which way ought we swim? And have we got everything we want to take with us?" "What we haven't got, we can't get," remarked Miss Alsheen, "and as for swimming, I expect I'm going to make a poor hand at it." I had a hope, which was not quite strong enough to be a belief, that, supported by their life preservers, the two women might paddle themselves along, and that by giving them in turn a helping hand, I might eventually get them to the steamer. There was a strong probability that I should not succeed, but I did not care to think of that. I now swam in front of my companions and endeavored to instruct them in the best method of propelling themselves with their arms and their hands. I now swam in front of my companions and endeavored to instruct them in the best method of propelling themselves with their arms and their hands. If they succeeded in this, I thought I would give them further lessons in striking out with their feet. After watching me attentively, Miss Lex did manage to move herself slowly through the water, but poor Miss Lex Alsheen could do nothing but splash. "If there was anything to take hold of," she said to me, "I might get along, but I can't get any grip on the water, though you seem to do it well enough. Look there," she added in a higher voice. "Isn't that our oar floating over there? If you can get that for me, I believe I could row myself much better than I can swim." This seemed an odd idea, but I swam over to the floating oar and brought it back to her. I was about to show her how she could best use it, but she declined my advice. "If I do it all," she said, "I must do it in my own way." And taking the oar in her strong hand, she began to ply it on the water, very much in the way in which she would handle a broom. As at first she dipped the blade too deeply, but correcting this error, she soon began to paddle herself along at a slow but steady rate. "Capital!" I cried. "You do that admirably." "Anybody who's swept as many rooms as I have," she said. "I ought to be able to handle anything that can be used like a broom." "Isn't there another oar?" cried Miss Lex, who had now been left a little distance behind us. "If there is, I want one." Looking about me, I soon discovered another floating oar and brought it back to Miss Lex, who, after holding it in various positions so as to get the hang of it,
as she said, soon began to use it with as much skill as that shown by her friend. If either of them had been obliged to use an oar in the ordinary way, I fear they would have had a bad time, but considering the implement of the light of a broom, its use immediately became familiar to them, and they got on remarkably well. I now took a position a little in advance of my companions, and as I swam slowly, they were easily able to keep up with me. Miss Alsheen, being so stout, floated much higher out of the water than either Miss Lex or I, and this permitted her to use her oar with a great deal of freedom. Sometimes she would give us a vigorous brush to the water that she would turn herself almost entirely around. But after a little practice, she learned to avoid undue efforts of this kind. I was not positively sure that we were going in the right direction, for my position did not allow me to see very far over the water, but I remembered that when I was standing up in the boat and made my discovery, the sun was just about to rise in front of me, while the dark spot on the ocean lay to my left. Judging, therefore, from the present position of the sun, which was not very high, I concluded that we were moving toward the north, and therefore in the right direction. How far off the steamer might be, I had no idea, for I was not accustomed to judging distances at sea, but I believed that if we were careful of our strength, and if the ocean continued as smooth as it was now, we might eventually reach the vessel, provided she were yet afloat. After you are fairly in the water, said Miss Alsheen, and she swept along. Although without the velocity which that phrase usually implies, isn't it half so bad as I thought it would be? For one thing, it don't feel a bit salt. Although I must say it tasted horribly that way when I first went into it. You didn't expect to find a pickle brine, did you? Said Miss Lex. Though if it was, I suppose we could float out on it settin'. And as to being cold, said Miss Alsheen, the part of me that's in is actually more comfortable than which is out. That's one thing I would have been afraid of, said Miss Lex, if we hadn't made preparations for it. And that's sharks. Preparations, I exclaimed. How in the world do you prepare for sharks? Easy enough, said Miss Lex. When we went down into our room to get ready to go away in the boats, we both put on black stockings. I've read that sharks never bite people. I've read that sharks never bite colored people. Although if they see a white man in the water, they'll snap him up as quick as lightning. And black stockings was the nearest we could come to. You see, I thought, as like as not, we'd have come some sort of an upset before we got through. It's a great comfort, remarked Miss Alsheen, and I'm very glad you thought of it, said Miss Lex. And I'm very glad you thought of it, Miss Lex. After this, I shall make it a rule, black stockings for sharks. I suppose in your case, said Miss Lex, addressing me, dark trousers will do as well. To which I answered that I sincerely hoped they would. Another thing I'm thankful for, said Miss Alsheen, is that I thought to put on a flannel skirt. And what's the good of it, said Miss Lex, when it's soft wet? Flannel, replied her friend, whether it's wet or dry. Flannel's flannel, replied her friend, whether it's wet or dry. And if you'd had the rheumatism as much as I have, you'd know it. To this, Miss Lex replied with a sniff, and asked me how soon I thought we would get sight of the ship, for if we were going the wrong way, we had to turn around and go back. It would be certainly very provoking. I should have been happy indeed to be able to give a satisfactory answer to this question. Every time that we rose upon a swell, I threw a rapid glance around the whole circle of the horizon, and at last, not a quarter of an hour after Miss Lex's question, I was rejoiced to see, almost in the direction in which I supposed it ought to be, the dark spot which I had before discovered. I shouted the glad news as we rose again. My companions strained their eyes in the direction which I pointed. They both saw it and were greatly satisfied. Now then, said Miss Alsheen, it seemed as if there was something to work for, and she began to sweep her oar with great vigor. If you want to tire yourself out before you get there, Barbary Alsheen, said Miss Lex, you'd better get on that way. Now, what I advise is that we stop rowing altogether and have something to eat, for I'm sure we need to keep our strength. Eat, I cried. What are you going to eat? Do you expect to catch fish? And eat 'em raw? Said Miss Lex. I should think not. But do you suppose, Miss Craig, that Miss Alsheen and me would go off and leave that ship without taking something to eat by the way? Let's all gather here in a bunch and see what sort of meal we can make. And now, Barbary Alsheen, if you lay your oar down there on the water, I recommend you tie it to one of our bonnet strings, or I'll be floating away and you won't get it again. As she said this, Miss Lex put her right hand down in the water and fumbled about, apparently in search of a pocket. I could not smile as I thought of the condition of the food when for an hour or more had been a couple feet under the surface of the ocean. But my ideas on the subject were entirely changed when I saw Miss Lex hold up in the air 2 German sausages and a shake of briny drops from their smooth and glittering surfaces. There's nothing, she said, like sausages for shipwreck and that kind of thing. They are very sustaining, and being covered with a tight skirt, water can't get at 'em no matter how you carry 'em. I wouldn't bring those out of the boat because having the beans, you might as well eat them. Have you a knife about you, Miss Craig? I produced a dripping jackknife, and after the open blade had been waved in the air to dry a little, Miss Lex proceeded to divide one of the sausages, handing the other to me to hold meanwhile. Now, don't go eating sausages without bread if you don't want 'em giving you dyspepsy, said Miss Alsheen, who was tugging at a submarine. Pocket. I'm very much afraid your bread is all soaked, said Miss Lex, to which her friend replied that remained to be seen, and forthwith produced a splash of glass preserved jar with a metal top. I saw this nearly empty, and I looked into the ship's pantry, and I stuffed it all the soft biscuits it could hold. There was some sort of jam left at the bottom, so the one who gets the last biscuit will have something of a little spread on it. And now, Miss Lex, she continued triumphantly as she unscrewed the top, that rubber ring has kept him dry as chips. I'm mighty glad of it, for I had trouble getting this jar into my pocket and getting it out, too, for that matter. Floating thus, with our hands and shoulders above the water, we made a very good meal from the sausages and soft biscuit. Barbary Alsheen, said Miss Lex, as her friend proceeded to cut the second sausage. Don't you lay that knife down when you've done with it, as if it wasn't an oar. For if you do, it'll sink like a knot. About 6 miles. I've read that the ocean is as deep as that in some places. Goodness gracious me, exclaimed Miss Alsheen. I hope we are not over one of them deep spots. There's no knowing, said Miss Lex. But if it's more comforting to think it's shallower, we'll make our minds that way. Now then, she continued, we'll finish off this meal with a little something to drink. I'm not given to taking spirits, but I never travel without a little whiskey, ready mixed with water, so take it if should be needed. So saying, she produced out of one of her pockets a whiskey flask tightly corked, and of its contents we each took a sip, Miss Elsheen remarking that leaving out being chilled or colicky, we were never likely to need it more than now. Thus refreshed and strengthened, Miss Lex and Miss Elsheen took up their oars, while I swam slightly in advance as before. When the occasional intermissions of rest and the good deal of desultory conversation. One second. Yeah, okay. We have just a couple more pages on this one. Alright, produce the whiskey tightly poured. Alright, nothing more than now. Thus refreshed and strengthened, Miss Lex and Miss Elsheen took up their oars, while I swam slightly in advance as before. When, with occasional intermissions of rest, and a good deal of desultory conversation, we had slept and swam for about an hour. Miss Lex suddenly exclaimed, I can see that thing ever so much plainer now, and I don't believe it's a ship at all. To me it looks like bushes. You're mighty long-sighted without your specs, said Miss Elsheen, and I'm not sure about which you're right. And I'm not sure but what you're right. For 10 minutes or more I had been puzzling over the shape of the dark spot, which was now nearly all the same in sight. Its peculiar form had filled me with a dreadful fear that it was a steamer, bottom upward, although I knew enough about nautical matters to have no good reason to suppose that this would be the case. I am not far-sighted, but when Miss Lex suggested bushes, I gazed at the distant object with totally different ideas, and soon began to believe that it was not a ship either right side up nor wrong side up, but that it might be an island. This belief I proclaimed to my companions, and for some time we all worked with increased energy in the desire to get near enough to make ourselves certain in regard to this point. As true as I'm standing here, said Miss Lex, who, although she could not read without spectacles, had remarkably good sight at long range. Them is trees and bushes that I see before me, though they do seem to be growing right out of the water. There is an island under them, you may be sure of that, I cried. And isn't this ever so much better than a sinking ship? I'm not so sure about that, said Miss Elsheen. I'm used to the ship, and as long as it didn't sink, I prefer it. There's plenty to eat on board of it, and good beds to sleep on, which is more than can be expected on a little bushy place like that ahead of us. But then the ship might sink all of us, shouldn't it? Beds, victuals, and all. Do you suppose that is the island the other boats went to? Asked Miss Lex. This question I had already asked myself. I had been told that the island to which the captain intended to take his boats lay about 30 miles south of the point where we left the steamer. Now, I knew very well that we had not come 30 miles, and had reason to believe, moreover, that the greater part of the progress we had made had been toward the north. It was not at all probable that the position on the island was unknown to our captain, and it must therefore have been considered by him as an unsuitable place for the landing of his passengers. There might be many reasons for this unsuitableness. The island might be totally barren and desolate. It might be the abode of unpleasant natives, and more important than anything else, it was in all probability a spot where steamers never touched. But whatever its disadvantages, I was most vividly desirous to reach it, more so, I believed, than either of my companions. I do not mean that they were not sensible of their danger, and desirous to be free from it, but they were women who had probably had a rough time of it during a great part of their lives, and on emerging from their little circle of rural experiences, accepted with equanimity, and almost as a matter of course, their rough times which come to people in the great outside world. Equanimity, and almost a matter of course, the rough times which could come to people in the great outside world. I do not believe, I said in answer to Nick's Lux, that this is the island to which the captain would have taken us, but whatever it is dry land, and we must get there as soon as we can. That's true, said Miss Elsheen, for I'd like to have ground nearer to my feet than 6 miles, and if we don't find anything to eat and any place to sleep when we get there, it's no more than can be said of where we are now. You're too particular, Barbary Elsheen, said Miss Lex, about your comforts. If you find the ground too hard to sleep on when you get there, you can put on your life preserver and go to bed in the water. Very good, said Miss Elsheen. And if these islands are made of coral, as I've heard they are, and if they're as full of small pits and coral I've got at home, you'll be glad to take a breath of me, Miss Lex. I counseled my companions to follow me rapidly as possible, and we all pushed vigorously forward. When we had approached near enough to the island to see what sort of place it really was, we perceived that it was a low-lying spot, apparently covered with verdure, and surrounded, as far as we could see as we rose on the swells, by a rocky reef against which a tolerably high surf was running. I knew enough of the formation of these coral islands to suppose that within this reef was a lagoon of smooth water into which there were openings through the rocky water. It was necessary to try to find one of these, for it would be difficult and perhaps dangerous to attempt to land through the surf. Before us we could see a continuous line of white-capped breakers, and so I led my little party to the right, hoping that we should soon see signs of an opening in the reef. We swam and paddled, however, for a long time, and still the surf rolled menacingly on the rocks before us. We were now as close to the island as we could approach with safety, and I determined to circumnavigate it if necessary before I would attempt with those 2 women to land upon that jagged reef. At last we perceived at no great distance before us a spot where there seemed to be no breakers, and when we reached it we found to our unutterable delight that here was smooth water flowing through a wide opening in the reef. The rocks were piled up high, quite high, and the reef at this point, at least, was a wide one, for as we neared the opening we found that it narrowed very soon and made a turn to the left, so that from the outside we could not see into the lagoon. I swam into the smooth water, followed close by Miss Lex and Miss Elsheen, who, however, soon became unable to use their oars, rowing to the proximity of the rocks. Dropping these useful implements, they managed to paddle after me with their hands, and they were as much astonished as I was when, just after making a slight turn, we found stretched across the narrow passage of a great iron bar, about 8 or 10 inches above the water. A little farther on, and 2 or 3 feet above the water, an iron bar extended from one rocky wall to the other. Without uttering a word, I examined the lower bar and found one end of it fastened by means of a huge padlock to a great staple driven into the rock. The lock was securely wrapped in what appeared to be a tarred canvas. A staple through an eye hole in the bar secured the other end of it to the rocks. These bars were put here, I exclaimed, to keep out boats, whether at high or low water. You see, they can only be thrown out of the way by taking off the padlocks. They won't keep us out, said Miss Lex, for we can duck under. I suppose whoever put them here didn't expect anybody to arrive on life preservers. That's the end of that chapter. The next one is page 19. John Muir. M-U-I-R. John Muir. You're welcome. It is really nice. Made some, it's lemonade with a little bit of the mixed greens. It's really good. You're welcome. Yes, thank you. Oh, I can't even see it. Yeah, it might be over VID.
The World Health Organization is now looking into the use of experimental vaccines to try to stop the spread.
And because I'm deeply concerned about the scale and the speed of the epidemic, we will convene the emergency committee today to advise us on temporary recommendations.
And meanwhile, an American surgeon who contracted the virus has been flown to Germany to receive treatment, along with 6 other Americans who have been exposed. Here at home, CDC officials are now screening travelers who visited the affected regions at major international airports, including JFK, Washington Dulles, Chicago O'Hare, and LAX. The National Transportation Safety Board released some shocking new footage of the UPS cargo plane that crashed in Louisville during takeoff last year, killing 15 people. The video showing the moment the left engine flew off the plane and burst into flames. Right now, a 2-day hearing into the deadly crash is underway, with investigators revealing that metal fatigue caused the left wing's engine mount to fail. Officials also say that UPS did not take action after receiving a notice flagging the structural failures. New York City Mayor Zoran Mondani now says 3 Luigi Mangione supporters who were given press passes to Monday's court hearing should not have been granted access. The mayor now ordering a review of how the city issues credentials.
Those 3 individuals should not have received press passes. My administration is reviewing the entire process and the standards for press credentialing. There is a good natured debate to be had about where a press pass should extend and where it shouldn't. However, the 3 people that we are talking about don't fall within that.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, I just saw that. But thank you. You're welcome. Yep. we're gonna do the third beginning, and then we'll try to get all 3 chapters, because it's technically the introductions. Yeah, they're set up a little differently, and then we'll get chapter 1 in. Okay.